What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Guys, we're reacting to some more Anthony Richardson news. A lot of people this season, guys, have really started to, form a different opinion about Anthony Richardson. It almost feels like, Cody, we're kind of like in a debate stage of Anthony Richardson. It's like the common trend is to, or at least outward spoken trend is to hate Anthony Richardson. And if in some way, shape, or form you show that you have any kind of positivity towards him or any kind of hope towards Anthony Richardson getting better, all of a sudden it seems like everyone just calls you a fool for thinking that way. But that's where we're at right now. The jury is out on whether or not Anthony Richardson is still going to be the long-term solution for the Indianapolis Colts. But for those that do have hope or positivity towards Anthony Richardson, this news we're about to react to might just give you a much better chance to feel better about him. We can talk about that right now. So this was Stephen Holder's article here on ESPN. So if you guys want to go over here, you can check this out. Talking about Anthony Richardson saying when he returns to his offseason training in Florida, he'll be working on specific areas. He plans to work with biometric expert Chris Hess, who counts Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen among his clients whose throwing motions he has helped refine. During a recent NFL film segment, Allen called Hess the most influential person in my mechanical career. Allen credits Hess with helping him dramatically increase his completion percentage rate from 52.8% as a rookie to nearly 70% by his third season. Said it's all part of a bigger effort by Richardson to demonstrate he can be the quarterback the Colts need him to be. No one, including the Colts, wants to think about the alternative. Richardson said, I've just got to make sure I'm on point, doing everything I can to help this organization go in the right direction. So, Cody, I mean, we've had a day or two to sit on this news. What is your reaction, Ben, to, Anthony Richardson getting help from Chris Hess, who, again, Josh Allen, who's one of the premier quarterbacks in this league, says he's the main reason why I'm so good at what I do now?
Yeah, and I mean, I guess to your first thing at the beginning, I think there definitely are reasons to be concerned about Anthony Richardson. But Derek, all of my concerns have not been about him as a passer necessarily, because we knew he was very raw. We knew he was going to take some time. My biggest concern was really about just the health, and that's kind of been the biggest thing. So if you have questions about AR, I totally understand that. But yeah, to your second question there, I definitely think that this is the right move for Anthony Richardson. I mean, Derek, that was the comparison we kept. That's what everybody compared Anthony Richardson to coming out. What's Josh Allen, right? A guy that was not good completion percentage wise, a guy that had a big arm. This kid who was athletic as could be, but just couldn't hit the broadside of a barn to start his career, right? And that's what people were saying, right? He's going to have some work. He's going to have to seriously improve his mechanics and do a lot in that department, and really refine his passing. We know he's an athlete. We know he can run the ball. But when it came to passing, I mean, we saw it last year, Derek. Anthony Richardson was very uneven, and to his credit, I think there definitely were some ways that he took steps forward in terms of passing the football from the beginning of the season to his, some of his final games post benching. But yeah, I think if you're looking at it, Derek, this is probably the best thing AR could do this offseason, because let's face it, Derek, he's not guaranteed he's going to be the guy long term. Like, he needs to improve in a drastic way. And, specifically, I know, his focus is going to be all about that short to intermediate game, the touch on his passes, the sloppy footwork, things like that, things that we saw last year. Certain times where Derek, he struggled to make routine throws. And that had a lot of people concerned. And to his credit, I think he definitely, as the season went along, he got better in certain ways. But Derek, I mean, there were certain things that you're just like, man, he just lacks the touch in certain ways that NFL quarterbacks and franchise quarterbacks need to have, right? So I think you're talking about if you're comparing him to Josh Allen, I think this is about the best thing you could do if you're Anthony Richardson is to go with a guy who has a proven track record. And even though Anthony Richardson's completion percentage is worse than Josh Allen's has been, I mean, I think that does give you hope, at least from a passing standpoint, that if anybody can get the most out of AR and get him to the point where he can reach his full potential, it's a guy like Chris Hess, who has a proven track history of doing this. So I guess from that standpoint, I look at this and I say, this is probably the best thing AR could do for his, mechanics and being having a legitimate shot at improving his accuracy and improving his touch and all those things that obviously you saw the noticeable increase for Josh Allen and only, one off season of working with Chris Hess. So I definitely think from that standpoint, this is going to give him the best chance here to, be the best version of himself passing the football that we have seen so far.
Yeah, and to the credit of Chris Hess, I mean, again, the Allen jumped from a 52.8% to a 63.4% the next season. So nearly an 11% increase in completion rate. And then obviously it got even better as the time went on. And now we see Josh Allen can make any throw anytime he need him to. And I do encourage anyone that actually wants to watch the NFL Film One. I know Landon Oliver retweeted it and it's up on his. So go and check it out on social media. I don't remember who said it. I think it was Troy Aikman. Troy Aikman said, I have never been a guy that has ever said that, accuracy is something you can teach. He said, I've always been the guy that has said, you're either born with it or you're just not. And he said, Chris Hess is the first guy to prove me wrong on that there are ways to fix it. And, the way that Josh Allen, describes it so well, he says that, before he just used to put a lot more of his body into the throws. And that's why and not only affected his accuracy, but it also affected his body. He says, by throwing my body into these throws the way I was hurting my shoulder more than it should have been because I was throwing my entire body into these throws. Whereas now everything's more clean and everything's more crisp and it makes it much less about full body throw and it's more about just using the arm and a little bit of the shoulder. So, from a couple standpoints here, of course, I don't know if this is going to work, right? But at this point, what do you have to lose, right? What it couldn't possibly get any worse, right? And for Anthony Richardson, I mean, we don't even need a 12% increase in his accuracy, but if he can go from completing 48% of his passes this last year to completing 55, 56, 57%, then I mean, we're going to start seeing a little bit better of a shift, Cody. And, it may take a little bit longer for Anthony Richardson. It may take more than one season to get it down because, again, Josh Allen, he had more experience when he came into this league versus when he didn't. So, I mean, it is going to be a process for Anthony Richardson. Now, obviously, we all sit here and we all say that, the Indianapolis Colts, they're on a time frame. They're on a very, very small time crunch right now. Anthony Richardson has to show improvement or, it's high roads for everyone, right? So it's good that he's getting a jump on this now and he's working with someone that has, that has basically helped to redefine how the best quarterback in the NFL at the moment has thrown these passes. And, the whole, I don't know why people are so offended by the Anthony Richardson, Josh Allen comparisons because, they are a lot of the same player when they first came into the league. They very much are. And what's the problem that we've always said with Anthony Richardson, right? It's been more of the problem of it feels like at times he overthrows guys or he just puts himself in a position where it just feels like the accuracy is just not always there. The throw is not where he needs it to be. Now, if Chris can get a hold of Anthony Richardson and actually get him to throw more accurate passes and teach him how to use those mechanics and redefine his throwing motion, then sky is the limit for Anthony Richardson if that becomes a reality. If he can do for Anthony Richardson what he did for Josh Allen, then Cody, this could fix so many things for the Indianapolis Colts and for Anthony Richardson. Because if you can get Anthony Richardson completing over 55% of his passes just after 1 year, then this is going to be a monumental change to this Colts offense. Now, obviously, there's other factors that go into it. You brought it up from the very beginning. The number one aspect is the health thing. And I don't know if the throwing motion is really going to help his back or even his shoulder long term. I haven't heard Anthony Richardson really complain about the arm since he came back healthy. So I don't know if that's much of an issue for him. I don't know. But I got to wonder, maybe it does help the back a little bit. I don't know. I feel like it could, if it could reduce that wear and tear on his body, then that might be helpful for him as well. Like you said, dude, it's a long shot, but I really am hopeful because, again, we saw what Josh Allen has done. The body of work proves it, and if Allen is willing to give such big props to this one guy, and if this one guy is able to do even slightly what he did for Josh Allen to Anthony Richardson, then Anthony Richardson might just have a chance to save his job as an Indianapolis Colt quarterback, as an NFL quarterback, and save everyone else's jobs that are on the line right now.
Yeah, I had a couple thoughts here. Devil's advocate would say, going back to the Josh Allen versus Anthony Richardson thing, Devil's advocate would say, Derek, well, he hasn't, he's younger as a passer. He didn't have as much college experience. So could it be easier for him to refine his motion, because he still has been learning it, right? He hasn't been throwing with this certain motion for multiple seasons, right? Like Josh Allen did coming out of college, right? And even at the NFL level. So could it be an easier transition or a harder transition? I don't know. That'll be remains to be seen. I think a couple things here, Derek. Obviously the health part is a major part of this, but one thing, Derek, we haven't even talked about is this is going to be the first offseason Anthony Richardson has been pretty much fully healthy, right? I mean, he came in, NFL year one, was pretty healthy. But, going into a season where he knows what's expected of him and he's not coming off of a major injury, right? And he's going to be able to get ahead of some things that, frankly, an offseason ago, he wasn't able to, right? Because it was a lot of the rehab, recovery, things like that. But I think this, Derek, and again, the proof will be in the pudding. We'll have to see with number one, the health, and then two, how much truly does it help him. But I will say this, Derek, he's doing all the things he should do. And I think with bringing in, and I think we have both been, Chris Ballard said as much, but we've both been on the, been on the train of like bringing an actual legitimate quarterback to push him. I think if there's any chance to see if he is the guy or not, these are the moves you need to make in order to make that happen. Now, like you said, it could very well not end up happening. He could prove he's not the guy. I certainly have my concerns. I know Colts fans have their concerns. But what I'm saying is at least the right steps are being made to determine through working with Chris Hess, adding a backup quarterback that's going to push him, is he the guy or not? If he's not the guy, then at least you've done every possible thing you could do, from Anthony Richardson's standpoint and from the Colts standpoint to know for certain if that's the case or not, right? And like you said, this is where the Colts are. They are in a pretty much a do or die situation for this regime. I mean, for Shane Steichen, Chris Ballard, and Anthony Richardson, I mean, if they don't perform up to task, Derek, you could very well be looking at a clean sweep. Like you could be looking for a new head coach, a new GM, and a new quarterback next offseason. Like, you really realistically could be looking for that, right? So, I mean, the back's against the wall for all three of these guys. It really is. And specifically with Anthony Richardson, it was a disappointing season. Let's call it what it is. It was very disappointing. He took some steps back in some ways we thought he would be better in, right? So he's got to do these things. This was a necessary move, Derek, for Anthony Richardson to make for, potentially being able to fix all the crap that he has right now, all the faults that he has, in terms of throwing the football. This is the best thing that he could do for that. And I think if he is going to rise to the occasion, this is the stuff that he has to do. But again, Derek, you can work with as many people as you can, and you still could not be the guy. So I'm not going to crown him just because he's doing the right things right now. Again, Derek, it's January. Okay, do that in November. But right now, he's taking the proper steps to do what he needs to do. The Colts have talked a big game about bringing in competition. But obviously, Chris Ballard's talked before, and his actions haven't necessarily always lined up with that, right? So, I mean, this is a do-or-die thing for all three of these different guys. And if you want to get the best out of Anthony Richardson, you have him work with a guy like Chris Hess, and you bring in legitimate competition to push him. And if you do that, and he's not the guy, he can't stay healthy, or he doesn't really improve that much, enough that you're encouraged that he can be the guy, then honestly, Derek, from my perspective, I think from a lot of fans' perspectives, it's like, what do we have to lose at this point, right? Like,
Right.
Either he's the guy or not, and you determine that and you move forward. And so that's kind of where I stand on it. But yes, if there's any guy that can fix Anthony Richardson, it's Chris Hess. If he can't, then that's on Anthony Richardson. I hate to say it, but that's on AR. He's not going to be the guy.
It feels like, and again, I point back to, what's the ultimate point of this, of what he's doing. And again, it comes down to, what have we all been saying about Anthony Richardson? Besides the health being a major concern, his accuracy is a major point of concern. Now, obviously, leading the NFL in drop percentage this year from his wideouts certainly misconstrued those numbers quite a bit. I mean, I think that if you had that, obviously it's still bad, but you'd see the point that I'm making.
But also, you look at that and you say, okay, Joe Flacco didn't have that problem as much, right? So
the completion percentage was certainly much better.
I understand, the receivers got to catch the ball. Like, certainly, I'm not excusing the receivers, but also, Derek, he's got to make some of those throws more catchable too.
Yes,
like, that's not all on the receiver.
And you know what? And it may come down to also a little bit of it being, not only the throw is being more accurate, but maybe it comes down to, and another point too is maybe this work with Chris Hess might also allow for Anthony Richardson to not have to throw darts on every throw that he makes.
Yes.
I know when he came back from the benching, he did have a couple of those throws that you were like, okay, he's starting to get a little bit of the touch on there a little bit. You're starting to see it, but it still didn't quite make it there. Now, obviously, I mean, his velocity on his throws is what allows him to do the things that he does. He's able to throw it in tight windows because he has velocity on a ball that virtually no other quarterback in the NFL is capable of doing, which, is an advantage in some areas. But like you said, those throws that are within 8 yards and they don't need to be thrown at 65, 70 miles an hour, then, that's where the whole, it's not about the speed. It's just about making sure the spiral on that ball is clean and making sure it gets put in the right place and it's not thrown at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, all those things are important. And that, to talk about the touch, that is a big thing that is very evident he's going to have to work on, right? Is not just getting it on target to your guy, but understanding how to make it the most catchable ball you can make it. Now, obviously, your receivers got to catch it, but you got to make it, as a quarterback, life on your receivers as easy as possible, right? So I think there's fault that goes both ways there. But yeah, certainly positive steps in the right direction, Derek. And I think he's pretty aware. He knows where he falls short. I mean, the tape tells you right there where he needs to work on. And if there's anybody that's going to get the most out of him, it's going to be a guy like Chris Hess.
Yep, 100%. Well, that's going to do it for this one, guys. Let us know your thoughts on Anthony Richardson working out and learning from Chris Hess? And, what improvements do you think it will make towards his game, or if any at all? But let us know your thoughts, guys. Thank you so much for all the support. Thank you for helping us reach 2,000 subscribers. Greatly appreciate it. Continue to show love. We appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And as always, go Colts.